Are you sure you're squatting deep enough?
Nice arse.
Do you need help with your hip thrusts?
Bend over further, darling.
Do you need me to pull your leggings up for you?
Nice gym set, could that get any tighter?
Your boyfriend doesn't need to know if I have your number, right?
Every day, millions of us get our gear on and head to the gym. But why is it that some people are being made to feel uncomfortable when they get there? Many will have seen, heard of, or even experienced harassment at the gym. A quick look on social media shows just how common this type of behaviour is in gyms across the world. A recent survey of women in the US by website FitRated suggests up to 7 in 10 women have had an experience at the gym which made them feel uncomfortable. This includes being watched, flirted with, being given unsolicited exercise advice, being followed, sexually harassed, having people criticise or comment on their body, or being touched. Statistics show that women in the UK already exercise less than men.
So I want to find out whether this harassment is making the situation worse. Are women being forced to change their behaviour or even quit exercise altogether?
Rebecca from Cardiff and Megan from Newport have both experienced some kind of harassment at the gym.
When I started going to the gym, I didn't really have sort of an awareness of the people around me. When I started getting more confident in my training, I started noticing a lot of PTs coming up to me, making comments and things. And then when I moved gyms, I was performing a bent over row and a man came up to me and said, "Bend over further, darling."
There was one particular trainer who would come and speak to me every single session, ask me the same things. He made a lot of inappropriate comments, innuendos, things that made me feel very uncomfortable. And at the very end of the session, he asked me for my number. And I said, "Oh, no, sorry." He said, "Look, I've got a boyfriend if that's where this is steering." And he said, "Oh, he doesn't have to know."
At first, you sort of shrug it off and you sort of like to think that it's not forwarded with that intention. But as it becomes more regular, you do start to get angry. You start to feel a lot more self-conscious and you do feel quite paranoid about it.
So you've talked about how this type of experience has changed your behaviour in the gym. Has it impacted your personal lives at all?
As soon as I walk into a gym, I already have sort of a bit of a front up, whereas I'll walk in and instead of just being like, "Oh, I'm just in the gym," it's like, right, I'm in the gym, game face on completely, where's the changing rooms, where's the machines I need to use, who's on them, how can I avoid contact with anyone?
I think I'm like that, and I also think I'm probably very cold to people who come up to me. Even if they're just being nice, you're paranoid and just on it the whole time. I'm here for my mental well-being, my physical well-being. I'm not here to be stared at or to be looked at in any way.
Yeah, I think you said with the paranoia as well, I think it really does get shifted onto you that you should feel paranoid about it. Like you're being over dramatic about it. Like you should take it as a compliment.
Yeah.
And that really gets me because I think, do you know what, it's not a compliment. No one asks for that attention. Yeah, I will wear crop tops and tight lycra, but for me it's more to be able to see how my body's developing rather than to have tight clothes on for the benefit of someone else.
Rebecca and Meg say the problem is not innocent looks and exchanges, but when the line is crossed into behaviour that makes women feel uncomfortable.
I've had a few responses in my work where women have noted, "You're always on show, there's nowhere that you can hide, people can always see you."
Dr. Luke Turnock has spent time looking at how men and women behave in the gym.
From the research you did, were there instances where women had experienced harassment?
Mostly to do with sort of men staring at them, and sometimes that was sexual, sometimes it was they felt as though the men were questioning what they were doing in their space. A lot of it is young men being insecure and wanting to belong to something, so it's identity formation initially. And online on Facebook and Instagram and so on, they have these various lad pages. You wind up with these guys who are maybe a bit insecure, and then they're kind of encouraged to behave in that way.
Can the gym layout affect men and women's experiences differently?
I gave an example in a presentation of one gym where they had the dumbbell rack right outside the women's changing room, and when you had a group of lads coming, they all wanted to crowd around the dumbbell rack. So that made it very bad experience for women who had to navigate between these lads in order just to get to the changing room. So in terms of just making small tweaks to structure, moving some of the equipment around, I think that's one of the changes that gyms can very easily make to minimise some of these issues.
Hello.
Hello, you okay?
How are you?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Where would be the first place you'd go in a gym like this?
Probably the first place I'd go would probably be up to the balcony. I'd be looking like all over here, seeing out who's where and why, like what's happening, what machines I could use, like how I could like limit moving around the gym.
What would you do around the squat rack?
So here, it's near the door, so like I know that I can sort of like see who's coming in, see who's coming out, and because it's like facing this way, there's no mirrors either way, that I know that I couldn't see anyone and no one can sort of see me, and even if they can, I'm not as aware of it. So I've still got that like social awareness of like what people I've got around me, and I try and get as much use out of this as I could to sort of prevent me having to move anywhere else. Yeah. I think the next thing I'll probably do is go over to the area over there, and that'll probably be the next bit of my workout. So
Come on, let's head over.
So I definitely would not go over to that corner because I feel like because there's two mirrors, I feel way more exposed than I would in just like an area like this where I can literally see one thing. But this is also good as well because I can see around me, but I'm a little bit more isolated because it's in like a corner space. If you find like your safe space, I feel like a lot more motivated to try and stay there. It's really quite limited where you try and do your workouts.
We spoke to two lawyers about Meg and Rebecca's stories. They told us that harassment is a criminal offence if a pattern of behaviour can be proved. But if the person being targeted doesn't make it clear that they're unhappy, it could still be difficult to prosecute.
Under civil law, a gym is only liable for harassment committed by their own staff or personal trainers.
But if you're touched, that is considered assault. The survey by Fit Rated also found that for women who had experienced harassment at the gym, fewer than 1 in 4 reported the issue to staff members. Nearly half chose to leave the scene, and less than 8% opted to actually confront the person harassing them. So what happens if you do report it?
I reported it to a PT in the gym who then sort of shrugged it off and said, you should expect that.
They basically responded and said, you know, you're lucky to be getting the attention.
But I then rang the head office of that gym, who then said to me that they were really, really sorry, sort of gave me a refund for the times I've spent in the gym, and said that although they do want to take it really seriously, there's not a lot they can do with that, as it's only one phone call.
So I left feeling quite disheartened, and whenever things like that have happened again, I've just brushed past it and not actually made comments because nothing seemed to get done about it.
It's clear from the people we've spoken to that gym harassment is widespread, but it's difficult for the law to tackle. One of the UK's largest gym chains, Pure Gym, has over 1 million members, so I'm here to find out what they're doing about this problem.
Pure Gym has already made changes at some of its gyms, including moving equipment and ensuring easy access to women's changing rooms.
I think harassment can happen in any walk of life, whether that be in your workplace, out on the street, or in any gym. Unfortunately, it is part of a societal issue that we deal with nowadays.
What is Pure Gym's policy in terms of dealing with complaints of harassment?
We have a very clear code of conduct, both for our members, and we have very clear code of conduct as well for all the people that operate in our gyms. If any member is found to be acting inappropriately, we will investigate. We have very robust procedures, and if necessary, we can terminate that member's membership.
Some of the people that we spoke to told us that sometimes personal trainers are not aware of what is deemed appropriate and inappropriate. How do you deal with this in gyms?
Our guidance for anybody who operates in our gyms is very clear in how to deal with members in a professional manner, and to make sure that they are respectful in any way that they are dealing with a member.
Gyms obviously have a role to play in tackling harassment, but what about the rest of us? Paula Lima is a gym influencer with more than 160,000 followers.
Like if there was an attractive girl in the gym, 70% of the lads would like kind of stop or try and move to the area that they're in to do, like I see it all the time. I don't like it. Look, I've just been sometimes where you'd see lads staring and, do you know what I mean? And you could see it makes a girl uncomfortable.
Do you feel like you've got a responsibility to educate your male followers into kind of etiquette and how to behave in gyms?
I do, like that's the thing, like on my stories I always, like, I do it in a more jovial way, where people have a laugh about it, but they'll also be thinking in their head, maybe I should, do you know what I mean?
So yeah, I'm just going to show you this video and yeah just...
Something along those lines, and I said, look, I've got a boyfriend if that's where this is steering. And he said, oh, he doesn't have to know.
So on that now, personal trainers, I've seen what she's just said around 70 times. Like, yeah. Like a personal trainer will, I'm a personal trainer, oh, we're doing inductions. Oh, there's a lovely girl at inductions today. If somebody has bad form, you're meant to help them, but just help them in a way that's not trying to get a number.
We told UK Active, an association of almost 4,000 gyms and health facilities, about Meg and Rebecca's stories. In response, they said, any form of harassment in gyms is totally unacceptable, and we expect operators to take a zero-tolerance approach to sexual harassment. The physical activity sector is not immune to these societal challenges, and our members are working every day to ensure everyone feels safe, welcome and comfortable using their facilities.
While the industry says that harassment is a wider social issue, the people I've spoken to have insisted that it is a particular problem in gyms. And if gyms want to keep up with the pace of change in other public spaces, then many argue more action is needed, and fast.
The women we interviewed made some practical suggestions of things which might help tackle the problem, such as clearer policy and posters on walls, and UK Active agreed to pass on these suggestions to their members.
I think people should feel empowered when they go to the gym. They should feel strong. They should feel like it's just a part of their daily routine.
I think you should feel confident and you should feel safe.
You go in there to feel better about yourself, not to feel intimidated and worried.
You should feel empowered, you should feel confident, you should feel really happy and you should feel motivated to go there.
That's how I would want to feel.